ʻAʻaʻiʻ satini ʻlikatiuhan. ʻI'eesh wuchin ʻchasati. Iachana achtuasagu kaltaginach i'inyuch achtatani. Aqa tsu yuchakqutan. Achtuasagu khan kainigi. Wasa kagachtul. Wasa kagachtulla dal. Wayuchatang akagachtunig. How? Okay, it's great to see everyone. Glad we're together. We're going to start off a little bit different tonight. So I'm going to say something to you slowly, then I'll say it again, and you're going to tell me how to type it, and then we're going to translate it. Okay. Oh, whoops. Okay. ʻAʻaʻiʻ ʻlikatiuhan. ʻáʻáʻt dag yersene. Achtuausaguan yin kachwanigi. Kelwush kanachwatuta Tliyatge. Akatchat sewak. Akat yi. Akat dag yi sakhlahai. Ajoy ye achsaka. ʻAʻaʻiʻ. Okay. Tsu yu kakwatan. Khan kananik. Wasadu spell. Ai. ʻAʻaʻiʻ naiu. You guys gotta tell me how to spell it.
Is it
CH apostrophe A. AADE.
Okay. ʻAʻaʻiʻ naiu.
Like Y-E-I.
Yay, Y-E-I. Ḥat, underlined X-A-T. Possibly high tone, I can't tell.
Ḥut.
Just kidding, not high tone.
Naiu.
yours N.
N-A-Y period O-O.
Okay.
I. There's
ḳáaḳwt dag yersene. ḳáaḳwt dag yersene.
is it guttural K?
long A, short A.
W.
ḳáaḳwt.
K apostrophe W.
ḳáaḳwt dag
D-E-D-A.
G-A-A-K.
Lower.
yersene.
I. Guttural X W.
Yersene.
Y.
Sounds like Y-E-I.
Is that W?
Underline
X W
X-W.
S-I-N-E-I. High tone E-I.
Achtuausaguan.
Okay, underlined X. Tuwa, T-U-W-A-A.
Sigus, S-I-G-O.
S-I, yeah.
Achtuausaguan.
O-O-W.
Tuwal.
W-S-I-G-O-O.
Yin kachwanigi.
Y-E. E-N.
Een, E, high tone E-E-N.
Yin kachwanigi. ḳáaxwt.
Underline K, A underline X, W A, N
I.
EI.
I,
ḳáaxwt.
EI.
E E
E
G I, high tone I.
Keshwush kanachwtudaat.
EL, high tone EL.
You
Whoosh.
say it again.
Keshwush kanachwtudaat.
whoosh, WOOSH.
Kanach.
Underline K A N, high tone A, underline X.
Wtudaat.
WTUD.
OWUTU.
Daat.
T A,
DA.
period A
Period
A,
Full
AAT.
stop.
Kliatke.
TLI.
Kliat.
WAT.
A T G, high tone E.
Akatchat sewakaq.
AT.
Akatchat sewakaq.
A.
K.
KA.
KAT.
Underline X, AT.
Sewakaq.
SEI.
WA. Hinge underline X. Or, oh no.
Akat ye. Akat dark ye sauchla haye.
A, K, high tone A. DAAK.
IA.
Kat
A, high tone A.
K. High tone AT.
dark
DAAK.
DAAK.
ye sauchla haye.
YE.
YE.
IEE.
Sauchla haye.
S.
S
SL.
A,
W.
underline X.
XW.
Sauchla haye.
L A,
XAY. High tone I.
Sauchla haye.
HA.
AA.
Joey.
ACH.
ACH, high tone A, W, high tone E.
Ye you. Oh, ye ye yauchsaka.
Y, high tone E.
YEI. YEE. YA. XW.
X underline W.
Yeah.
SIKAA.
IKAA.
Ye yauchsaka. Khatang.
CH apostrophe.
AAD, high tone E. Y, high tone E, I.
ʻatángi.
Underlined X, high tone AT.
ḵáaḥwt. L'éiw.
Nay.
NAY.
Okay,
Period, high tone. Oh, yeah. Low tone. Oh.
the final phase. How do we translate ʻatángi?
Forgive
Be
me.
gentle with me.
ḥáaḳwt dak dudzinei.
Doc is towards.
ʻáaxwt is something happened. I did something.
I did something. There it is. I did something. Like cock. Let's see if we could find it. See how I did spelling it too.
Very funny.
Maybe I ḥáaḳwt that. Okay. We'll go into this dictionary. I think it's an underline K. Oh, that's pretty close. It's an under. Was it high tone? No.
Did something wrong?
It is high tone. Huh?
I did something wrong.
I made a mistake. I did something wrong. And now let me fix my spelling. And this is how you talk about like making a mistake.
Yeah, because
Don't
there's
that
not
happen?
really word for I'm sorry or anything like that. So this is
Like he could, and so when it comes to like using a term like this doesn't mean excuse me. Because like in English, when do we say excuse me?
you I don't know, bump someone accidentally and
Yeah, accidentally bump
Like
someone.
asking for forgiveness.
Something
Yeah.
minor.
Yeah, and it could be. Doesn't seem like it's ever a big deal, right? It's like I need to get past you. I burped. I farted. It's kind of about.
ethical transgression. It's more of a manner transgression.
But yeah, there's like sarcastic ways, like excuse me, right? You're trying to get someone's attention. So it's not. Don't use this for any of those things. These are not phrases for minor offenses. One phrase at a time. Ach tu wau saguun.
I didn't want.
Something similar to I wanted. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to how the ending plays in, but
Doesn't look like a negative.
Is it a progressive?
Well, so ach tu wau sagu. I want. I like. Ach tu wau sagu.
I wanted or I liked.
I liked. So there's a perfective marker that pops up here, which we're just gonna have to get used to seeing and talking about how it works. It's not a true past tense thing. So for some things, it's just there, like ḥwasaku, ausaku. It's just there. For other things, like if you say Llingit chasati, where we are Llingit, we say Llingit ḥwsati. They became Llingit. So then you're talking about this moment that it became that thing. Sometimes it works that way. In this case, you would have more or less pretty much a past tense in terms of how the language is working. And then this one adds this little suffix on the end, which means used to but not anymore. So I would translate this as I had wanted.
Right.
So that can tell you that it's something that I wanted, but it probably didn't happen. And then we get this. Ḳáaḥwt.
Wasn't there a second part of that?
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, there it is. Ḳáaḥwt. Let me make these.
To tell you all?
Tell it to you all.
I feel like I'm cheating now.
Yeah.
Ḳáaḥwt kanach wututa ʼatángi.
I know the ḳlesh means
Not-
like not.
Whoosh is each other.
No, because through ka is
Let's go back.
on top of,
Let's go back to
or this face.
when we deal with some of these motion verbs, sometimes the things that pop up before the verb really affect how the verb works. What's that? Well, it's kind of a special circumstance. So we're going to go find ought. And it's going to be a good time to talk about verb roots. So the way this dictionary is organized is by Llingit, not a verb. Llingit is a verb, English. That's the structure of this whole dictionary. Within the verbs, everything is organized by roots, including like the little numbers. So there's going to be ought 1, ought 2, ought 3. There's quite a few of these ones. And then underneath it, there's going to be a whole set of verbs, kind of going, the order is by 0 classifier, S classifier, L classifier, SH classifier. That's how they're organized. And then adding thematic prefixes and using that same classifier organizational system. So for this one, you're going to have, and we'll talk about motion verbs. So there's going to be zero motion. I should probably say no. Okay, anyways. And then here's whoosh kanach. So there it is. We found it by looking up the verb root, then looking for that basically pre-verb combination. It means to assemble. So I guess they would say, Avengers, whoosh kanach gaida'a. Unless you're one of the Avengers, then you'd have to use a hortative. But this is together. There is another way to say it, which is whoosh chut. And I've heard both. So coming back to our,
We didn't assemble day before yesterday.
we were not going to assemble the other day. And I could,
We're seeing a different screen.
Yeah, we're
Untitled
seeing
14.
oh,
Yeah.
that's random. Okay. We could say it like this too. But we'll keep it this way.
Is the tlíochta the other day, or is it implying
That's the other,
day?
it's the other day. Yep. And it's not specific. It's not like 2 days ago, 3, it's just the other day. And you could say ḳáaḳwt the other year, ḳáaxdis the other month, ḳáaxandíkaq. It means like ḳáa on its own means farther down.
I was singing Ḳukahaa Isati with some kids today, and the ʼatángi is in there. So
Oh yeah, the other day. ḳáaxwt. Oh, it's such a beautiful story behind the composition of that song, the translation of it into Shingon. So when I was thinking about this the other day, I was gonna drop this one, but it's a bit much. But you can use this as well. So this is what we call a future decisive, and it's there's one way you could say would have, was going to. Like you could say, we were not going to get together the other day. But we're just going to say it like this.
I forgot.
I need to go to the verb dictionary for this one. But we'll see if it's in the other one. Let's go look up.
Cut is part of the verb, isn't it?
Yes. So everything in this case, like this is, and so we talk about the verb phrase in advanced Tlingit a lot. And so like this is the verb. Well, actually these two. But then you can't remove this information. If you remove this information, you change that verb. And so when we say the verb phrase, we say everything you need to understand that verb and how it's working. So if we go back, let's see if this one's in here.
I'm gonna guess that it's to tell you.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So we're looking for ha with a S classifier and this doc business in front of it. I don't know if we're gonna get it. Oh, look at that. N, ka, doc, sa, subjects, L classifier, ha. For S to remind O about N. Let's see. ʻatángi yeqasadni, ʻakadaqat sautlaha. They reminded me to fetch the food. We have putting it together. Okay, let's see. Akatchat sewokak. I'd probably say aka. Akadaki sautlaha. Oh, so ye.
Forgot to remind you all.
I forgot to remind you all. Ajoe yeyi yauchsaka.
That's why I'm telling you. Well, that's why I said. Forgive me, you all.
Yay! So like a true language teacher, I will apologize and make you translate the apology. I forgot to remind you all. In my defense, I think I said it about 75 days ago. So I do apologize if y'all came here. Were wondering what was going on.
Was there no class yesterday at all?
Well, Tuesday. Just for my class.
Yeah,
It's not like you asked.
I knew you had kids. Like if you have kids that age, it's like there's no way. Like,
There were 6 of us here.
For most of their lives, we've done the trick-or-treating thing at like 8 at night. So yeah. Okay, but I should have reminded you guys, and I am sorry. Dasa? Okay. Any language thoughts, questions, things you've been wondering, things you found?
In the book, there's a part that I was confused about on page 94, and it's the relational term with possession. And it's like G and all the different things, like from someone's possession, G'dach, G'day. And I'm wondering, like, if there's examples of what that means and how that can make sense.
Oh.
Same with like the today, or like they sound like verbal sentences, but they don't have a verb.
Yeah, is it like something's becoming my possession? Like that's I'm confused about.
Yes. Okay. So it sounds like it's a good time to work on bases and suffixes, which we can do. So we will get to that. Yes. Because I think one of the big sources of confusion and wonderment is that having something is a verb in English and is not a verb in Tlingit. Not all the time. And so, like, when you say jiwu, there's no verb there, right? You just say, it is located in my possession. Well, how do you say, so like, for example, if I said, katicha jiwu, which I do. So if I said katicha jiwu, I should use one that looks like one. But what if I were to say, I don't have katicha?
Katicha tlachji.
Slash tkhaji.
G.
G. So that suffix has to go away because that suffix means is or at. But then what would I do if I want to say, I will have katicha?
Is that like G'day?
Jide. Yeah.
Kushe.
Or is that more like you're walking over to hand?
Like someone will give it to me, it's going to be G-day. But I would end up using G, just like that, and then you'd have to switch to a verb, and you'd say yekwati. Like yeyati is located at, right? So usually if you got some kind of yeyati, so G yekwati katicha, the keys will be in my hands. G yewuti katicha. So that's where it gets funky, is it will be a verb if you're saying will be or won't. You could say yeyati, you could still use a verb for that. But like to just say I have it, you just say jiwu. And so, but the G part is really interesting in Tlingit because it means possession. It doesn't mean hand. But then we'll see when we do like handling verbs and stuff, or hajinach, it's going through our possession. When people talk about stuff like that, I think it gets really interesting.
So is it like if I was working on a project with a bunch of people and someone was like, where are the scissors? And I was like, they're in Harper's possession.
Jiwu. Because that would be a goose question. But it depends how they asked it too. It's like we did that little thing with the apple. So if someone says goose, chasha chasha, your answer is probably going to have the w on it. Neishu chasha chasha, scissors are at home. We kliya itikawu, they're in the other room. Harper jiwu.
Okay. So then, like, if I was to say, like, my cat, which I got from this old lady, you could use G'dach?
Yes.
Okay.
Douche away.
What about, like, G, like the GX pinch resting in something's possession?
Yeah, you could say douche achjiyeti. Wait, jidach, it's from that one. Or you could name the person.
What's this difference between jewu and jeich?
Jiwu, no verb. That's just what you're saying.
Okay.
Like it means it is there right now. They have it right now. And just like in English, like it doesn't mean you're holding it, right? Like I could say, "ʼatángi ţéesh." I have black pants. They're at home, right? But this means they are located in my possession. So it works loosely like having, right? Like I could say, yeah, I have $100. It's in the bank, right?
Right.
So it doesn't mean you're holding it. And so, but you would use G or just G if you're using a verb.
Right. So just be like, I'm wearing black pants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What else? Some more? Okay. Well, I thought as a reward for finishing ʻKukahaa, I want to show you folks a really wonderful speech and given by L'éiw Tu.éesh when we finished the work on ʻKukahaa. He was just really happy. His name is Herman Davis. He lives in Sitka, Alaska. He's wonderful. He's fabulous. His wife, Vida Davis, was a wonderful Tlingit as well. And he was just really fired up and inspired by the work that we were doing and by the story. I don't think I can ever share the audio because I won't say who, but someone was eating Cheetos and the bag was very loud and the crunching was very loud and it was very close. It was closer to the microphone perhaps than L'éiw Tu.éesh was. And so it was fun. It was just, we'll call it the Cheeto speech someday, but I don't want to lessen it by sort of giving it a funny name. But it was really wonderful, and so we sort of went through it and kind of fine-tuned a few things. But like this ʻKukahaa project is part of this larger project that like I've been working on for probably, I think, 9 years now, maybe 8. And a lot of the people who worked on it aren't with us any longer. It took too long to get going, but it's starting to come forward. So there's two things I want to show you folks. I want to show you this speech and then what the next story looks like before it's cut down. You guys get the inside view of what happens with these stories. So what I thought would do is we'll go one sentence at a time and I will read it and then someone will read it after me so you can have it modeled for you before you read it. And I would like everybody to take a turn reading, then we could see the translation over here and just let me know if there's anything in the sentence that you want to know about. Okay, and then after this, we'll take our break and then we'll look at bases and suffixes because I think it's an important part of what we were just doing before we went high speed on ʻKukahaa. Okay, who wants to read first?
I can read it.
Okay, so I'll say it first and then you say it after me.
Okay.
ʻáʻtángi dudzinei.
ʻáʻtángi dudzinei.
Okay. Anything you want to ask about that?
What's the yet at the end?
Yeah, I was asking about that. I've seen that before. It's like, is it like the way you do X, basically, or like the way of X?
The way you verb.
The way you verb.
So like you say, ʻáʻtángi, we came together. Yak-a, ʻáʻtángi, or sorry, or wuk-a, ade ʻáʻtángi. It was good the way we came together. So now you're describing the way that action takes place. So on the left side of the verb, you have ade, and on the right side, you have ye. And ade does mean towards it. Ye means place or the way. But when those two things combine, it doesn't necessarily matter what they both mean individually. They just take over and do this different function, which is the way the verb happens. Okay. Who wants to be reader number 2?
I'll go.
Okay. ʻatángi ʻatángi.
ʻātāngi yesu.
Sheesh. Any questions about that? Reader number 3.
Actually, I did have a question about
Okay.
like the for in the and for language. Like what indicates the for there?
Yes,
Yes.
for the benefit of our language.
Okay. I'd be meaning to add that to a lot of my sentences, but I just
Yeah.
never got around to looking it up.
Kind of depend, like for works in different ways, but like yes is usually for the benefit of something.
Could I say gonashish yes tlenuxi akha?
It doesn't, like if you're trying to say, like for example, if I want to say, thank you for the food, you say, atcha.
Gonashish akha?
Because gunashish, I think a more accurate translation of it is I am thankful. And then you don't need a for on there. English wants there to be for. Right? Thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for this. But then you have you can say gunashish ichsatini. And how would we translate that?
I am thankful that I see you.
Yes. And so that's how it shows, like, one, it shows us that gunashish is a verb, and 2, it shows us that it's not just a straight thank you, it's more like I am thankful. Just as I translated it a bunch with different speakers, one of them said, gunashish yochechat yati yayaki. And it couldn't be thank you, or else it would be thank you, I am here today, right? I am thankful that I am here today.
And I think if you said yes, wouldn't it be saying like, thank you on behalf of whatever comes next?
Yeah.
Thank you on behalf of the food.
Like this, yeah, it was like this gratitude is going to the food, kind of. So yes is more like it's going to be for the benefit of that thing that you're talking about.
Did I say gonashish yes eat? Something like that.
Well, you'd say gunashish yisaiyi.
Yisaiyi.
I'm thankful that you cooked it, whatever the thing is. Okay. Got a reader? Number 3.
I will.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yat awe achtuasagu yiinyuch ḵáaxwt.
Ya asyat awe ʻatángi ʻíʻíniu ʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻáʻ
Number 4.
Oh,
Okay. Yisaku ʼaayach'aak ʼáaxách'ikaw dudzinei ḥáayaxwt.
Isuku ʼaayach'aak ʻáaxách'ikaw ʼáayaxwt.
Sheesh. I think it's a complicated verb in there. Which, let's gotta go look at. Go look at something real quick. So if we look up this verb root, geik. So it has to do with like to restrain someone from doing something. And like,
We're just seeing a sliver of a screen.
oh, because I moved it. Hold on. Sheesh. Ḥánki. You see it now?
Fake.
Wow.
I do.
I do.
It's weird.
Bizarre. Okay,
Continue on, I guess.
Okay.
let's try one more time. If we look up just restrain, and we'll find a few things. So you get this ḳáaḳwt in different forms. So we see ka on it, and it means to restrain, forbid, warn, hold back. When you put j in front of that, which is hands, you get to stop from doing, I would think it has to do with work, but I don't know. And then you could have restrain from speaking. And so you have ʻáxwt. I was restrained from going. My mother forbids me to go on the dock. I restrain them, and I stop them from speaking. So going back to this, you all know just long ago, off of it, we were refrained from doing it, which is really interesting. Oh, this is probably high-toned. Ugh. Okay. Let me make a note. So we were restrained from doing it there. ʻatángi. And so I'll work on that translation too. Okay. Next one.
I can.
ʻáuxnáxáuaigh ʻatángi yashit ḳáaḳwt.
Awe chunach awe hajik ye uatik ya shit chak.
Sheesh. So we were talking about this G just a second ago, right? So this is really interesting too, the way that it works, because you could say ʻlidzi. So what does ʻlidzi mean on its own? Do we know that one? ʻlidzi. It's difficult.
Does it have something to do with being still?
It's difficult. But if you said ʻachjich ʻlidzi, what do you think that does?
Work was difficult. My work was difficult.
Well, it's not really work, though. The work part isn't there. ʻachjich ʻlidzi.
Difficult for me.
It's difficult for me, which is interesting, because it sounds like in my possession, it's difficult, right? So this does work in these somewhat metaphorical ways. And so especially with some of these verbs like difficult and stuff like that. And so this is where the for concept, like you could just use for, like FOR in English. And it's difficult for me, this is for you, this is for, whatever. We're doing this for the future generations. And those would probably be all three different words in Tlingit. Right, so they just have these little subtle differences.
This be thought of as we had difficulty or we have difficulty.
Yeah, so like if you were to say yatik, it is difficult. We could say yatik achjich or tlidzi achjich. And that could also, if you said tlidzi achjich, I would have to know the context. Because if you just came out of the blue and said that, I would think you're having a hard time, just generally in life. But if we're trying to do some sort of task, and you said, that's too difficult for me, then that's what you're saying, is you're talking about that particular task. So it's a really interesting thing. And so like he is saying, if you put this together, it's like for a long time, it has become very difficult for us in Sitka. Let's translate this a long time. I fix these translations. Okay. Okay, who wants to read the next one?
I'll do
All
this one.
day.
Achaya achlir yaskun dach ḳáaxwt the hun, ḳáaxwt the good.
Achaya alilko. Yasgundach kuch with a hand lech kuch with a good.
Sheesh. Fix my tone mark, and that should be low.
So is the wudehan like the same han as like standing somewhere?
Yeah, so that if you just said wudahan, it means they stood up. Ḳáaxwt the hun would be they stepped back from it. And so this, you could say, ḳáaxwt the hun. Like, let's say different cultures have different behaviors when it comes to standing in line, right? Like in some countries, when you stand in line, it's okay to just be breathing on somebody's neck, right? Like for some, that's just fine, right? But like, if someone was just sort of like really just right there in the Tlingit speaking world, I might turn and say, ḳáaxwt the hun, stand back. It just means take a step back. But if you say like this, skun dach ḳáaxwt the hun, they stayed away from it. They didn't, and so it also has these sort of extended meanings. Because it could mean they just took a step back from it. But it could mean sort of a larger thing, which is they stayed away from that.
What does the do?
The kuch, and this is a really interesting word, because it means to return. But it can also mean sometimes to kind of go backwards.
Oh, I see. That means like take a step back. It's like,
Yeah. So if you say, ḳáaxwt the good. Oh, you came back. Like if you left and then I looked over and you were there. Oh, ḳáaxwt the good. Hey, you came back. And so, but if you're just saying like standing, it doesn't make sense to say return standing, right? So it just means take a step back. And so to go backwards, you usually say ḳáaxwt, which is a weird construction because it means returning tailbone used to, kind of. So I think it just means your tailbone's going backwards or something. I don't really get. But then you'll see it used in verbs to say like returning, coming back, stuff like that. Oh, and you see it right here. So they got out of school, they never went back.
right, okay.
Which is not what we encourage our kids to do these days, but I'll tell you what, that was an awful school back then. We were just talking at a meeting today about boarding schools and just how awful they were. And so it's encoded in our language as well at times. Let's go next.
I can do it. I haven't done one.
Ḳáaxwt ḳukahaa away Sheldon Jackson de away wugut.
Ḳáaḥwt ḥuahua Sheldon Jackson. They away good.
Okay, sheesh. So just this ḳukahaa, it has several different uses. It could mean like although, however, but if you name someone and put ḳukahaa, that means that you're doing a subject switch, right? That's why if someone asks you a question, you could say ʻatángi, and you, or if it works well for like if we're in a Tlingit restaurant and they came by, dasai tuasuku dudzinei, ach tuasuku ḳáaxwt. ḥukahaa, and I don't know why I would order for them, but if I did, ḥukahaa, I want apple juice, they want water, right? So it works like that. And so that's what's doing here. But my father, though, he went to Sheldon Jackson. Let's go next.
I'll go.
Ja, ʼáʻáʻktsu. Sorry. Ja, ʼáʻáʻktsu. Achaway Sheldon Jackson Dewugut.
Ja, ʼáʻáʻktsu at away Sheldon Jackson they were good.
Anybody tell me what's missing from this sentence? You're all on typo patrol now.
Ka and my sister?
It's not a word. Smaller than that.
Oh yeah, it's the apostrophe.
The apostrophe. Which there's a sign coming into US and the apostrophe fell down. I gotta go drive by it and see if it's. Let me know if it's back up now. I complained to many people.
Carry a Sharpie around.
Yeah, oh, look, I've forgotten it. I'll blame it on them. Okay. Who wants to go next?
If no one's else going, I might as well go.
ʻáʻáʻwt ʻáʻáʻnach ʻtíʻchtaen hasnanénuch atchas ʻáʻáʻyechi awahayu ʻatángi.
ʻáʻáʻwt ʻáʻáʻnach ʻtíʻchtaen hasnanénuch atchas ʻáʻáʻyechi awahayu ʻatángi.
I'll think about this translation too. ʻáʻáʻwe. So Tlingit really likes to do this. It like tells you a place, then it switches to uk or ah. It's like that place or there. Just keep an eye out for this little word. It means then, but just in terms of how it's used. Like just watch for it.
I accidentally said klesh.
Oh yeah, then. ʻáʻáʻnach, really. Tīʻchtaen. Tīʻchtaen is, so tīʻch is like frozen or hardened or difficult. This dain, you could put on certain verb roots to turn them into adverbs. So this would be difficultly, but in terms of how it works, it means to try really hard. To really try hard. Hasnanénuch. I think it happened to them. It happened to them very difficultly. I'll have to think about it. Has ʻáʻáʻyechi. They used it, our language.
So if you're on, just a question on tle, if you're going to say now and then, would that be like yidat katle? Would that be out of context? I guess that would be right now. It wouldn't be now and then is more now and then, but I guess.
Yeah. You'd end up with like, because now and then is sort of saying like sometimes, right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, sometimes I guess would be, but it's just another figure of speech now and then.
Yeah. I guess it'd be more like they did this, then this other thing. So it was like away, and then there. It kind of works as at that time, I guess, right there. So, you did now. Okay, that's a good question. All right.
Always trying to work the slang in. I don't know why. That's like, yeah.
Because then you always got to think about what does that really mean when you say it. Okay. Let's go next. We'll do 2 more, and then we'll take our break. Okay. Ayayidat ko'a awe kuchte yayan tutlaq.
Ya idat away de ya yan tudlok.
Okay. I'll probably make this one long. It likes to be long. So yidat is now. Ya yidat is right now. Ḳukahaa, we see it though. Here's ḳuch, but when it switches to ḳáaxwt, it goes high-low. It's just something that happens. And so ya, yun to tluk, we're in the process of getting it back. So L'éiw Tu.éesh would be we obtained it, we succeeded, or we defeated a singular person. Last reader.
You can do it.
I can do it. Sure.
Awe ḳukahaa dach awe hasaguch saku.
Away kadach away has aguch saku.
Okay. So here's a book. From the surface of it, they are going to know it. So he was talking about, like, he was watching us and how a lot of us who speak Tlingit now, who become second language learners, have learned from books. And as you go into the books, you're going to find elders who were talking about this process. And in this case, he's happy that people are learning it from books. You'll see other instances where speakers say, if it doesn't change, they'll only be able to read it from the books. So just keep that in mind, that these are things that people have been thinking about, talking about for probably 50 years now. It's like, what's going to happen? How's it going to work? So we are on the books right now, but a big part of our goal is to get off of the books. So we won't need to look stuff up, we can just say stuff. But it's a long paddle to get there. Okay, any thoughts or questions before we take our break? Okay, think about 5-6 minutes, come back, do something a little different. L'éiw, huh? So we're going to get back into a few structural sort of language things. As we move through learning Tlingit and using Tlingit, I think there's a lot of back and forth between looking at these little parts and how they work, and then seeing them when they're all assembled, and then your brain really does a lot of work to put those things together. So I put this together, well, let me look at the picture for a reference. That baby's 10 years old now, and so we were having a language gathering in Carcross at this place called Skookie's Camp. And I started putting together this presentation because we're going through a whole bunch of these things and talking about, okay, we just learned that there's a whole bunch of these little parts that are direction and location terms. And then you can put suffixes on them. So what happens when you do that? So we want to sort of revisit these suffixes, make sure that we recognize them. So there's dach, de, nach, t, wo, and ch. So generally speaking, dach is out of or from or since that time. So you can put this onto a verb. So you could say yedach chatzati yedach, from the time I was a young man. Or you could say tukanei chatzati yedach, from the time I was a baby. There was one speaker, okay, let's see, I think she said tukda'at yetu undach shingitawa wutuach. From the time we were wearing diapers, we heard the Tlingit language. She was talking to us about like growing up with the language. De is the opposite of that, to, towards, until. So you could say things like yidati dach, from now forward, and yidati de, up until now, right? Nach is through, along, or via, including the time of. The T, well, these bottom four are all at. So this is recently arriving or touching or at a point. W is generally is. or are at, used in verbless phrases usually, is resting, residing, or at the time of. So you could say ta in the winter, ḳáatān in the summer. And there are certain ones that if they end with vowels, like G, sometimes it'll just disappear, but it'll turn that, like ka will go ka. It'll just go long, right? And then prolonged contact, repeatedly arriving at. And we're going to see like what these things look like when we add them to things. So we've seen this. Ya, he, we, you. Ya, he, we, you. Right here, here, there, way over there. So let's use these as examples. You could put those suffixes onto all of these, right? So starting with ya. Now, as you put a suffix on there, watch what happens to that vowel. The tricky part here is you kind of just have to remember this stuff. Oh yeah, that one goes long and high. Oh yeah, that one goes long and low, right? And you're going to see, because there's ya, and then there's another, what's the other ya? Anybody know what the other ya is going to be?
Like the face.
The face of, or the vertical surface of. So this is right here. So, repeat after me. Yadach.
Yadach.
Yatch.
Yadach.
So if you attach dach to something that ends with a vowel, you have the option of just going T underline X. You can just knock the vowel out of it if you want to.
Can you pronounce the second one again?
Yat. From here. Yade.
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 Towards here. Yanach.
Yanach.
Through here. Yat.
Yat.
Arriving here. Yadu.
Yadu.
Is right here. Yach.
Yach.
Is right here. Yach.
Yach.
Keeps coming back here, moving around here. Any questions about those? So the vowel goes long every single time. Heh. And do the exact same thing, right? The vowel goes long and it's high in every single one of these. Hey dach.
Heidach.
Hate.
Heik.
Heyday.
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 Hey nach.
Enough.
Hate.
Hate.
Heat.
Hey do.
Hedu.
Hey.
Heik.
Hey.
Heich.
And this one does have some special uses. Anybody recognize where this might be used? Yeah, to open some sort of hinged thing. To open the door. Open the box of wisdom. So you're just going to get heyday in front of those.
Is it also used in ku'ik when you call out, like before the fire bowls get distributed, they call out ancestors' names and say their name, heyday? Is that the same?
Okay, so we can do, I don't know if I have that one. So that one is ha, and it means this vicinity. So ha is the one that we use there. So you could say ha dach, or you could say hat, and you can say hade. That's the one you use at Pu'ik. It means towards this area. Hade.
There's that one, like if you're getting a gift, but I think when they like call out like ancestors' names of the clan, there's a
Oh,
time.
okay. We will get to that one. We will get to that one. It is a little bit different.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, though.
So does the N in parentheses, is that saying it's a noun, or is that saying sometimes it can be han?
Sometimes it pops up because you can say Hyundai. I don't hear that very often. You can say it.
Is that like bring me like Hyundai Jin's like bring me something? Same.
Hyundai literally means towards this area. In ʼku'eesh, it's an appropriate response for when they call your name, and it really means bring it here.
Right, okay.
But you don't say it outside of ʼku'eesh because it's too general.
I see, okay.
I think it's like, you gotta tell me how to carry the thing.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's a good ear though. So that one is going to be ʼaeday when you say their name. ʼaeday, to their mouth. Okay, so we could do this with we. Weidach. Wait.
Wait.
Weidday.
Wait.
Wait.
Weinach.
Wait.
Weinach.
Wait.
Wait.
Weidu.
Wait.
Wait.
Weich.
Wait.
Weich.
Wait.
Udach.
Udach.
Utch. Uday.
Uday.
Unach.
Unach.
Ut.
Ute.
Udu.
Udu.
Uch.
Yuch.
Uch.
Yuch.
Okay. So then you can attach these to the gu sa question. And you can have gudachsa.
Udachsa.
Gudesa.
Desa.
Gunachsa.
Gunachsa.
Gutsa.
Gutsa.
Gusu.
Gusu.
Guchsa.
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 And so when someone, I gotta say three things. Which one of these do you say when someone sneezes? Did we ever cover that? We haven't done sneezing? Okay.
Yeah, like which,
Nech.
I don't know. Say guchsa? No, actually no.
You're saying through where?
Through where?
Gunachsa. So gunachsa is what you say in Tlingit when someone sneezes. The response is not gunachish. That doesn't make sense. Where to go through? Thank you. No! Or I am thankful. Remember that earlier? So this way you got Nach, Shinach, Einach. The left side is supposed to be lucky, but I'm probably not lucky because I'm scared boogers are going to come out of my nose. So I sneeze out of my mouth all the time. That's just what I do.
What if you don't sneeze out of anything? What if you do like the...
Oh, the
Yeah.
You implode.
You'd say Teshkuksa, nowhere. And then, okay, the second thing I have to say, this one. So there was this elder in Yakutat. He's a very tall guy. His name was ʼatángi. He'd been like a combat veteran. So he went to war. He talked a lot about like Tlingit warrior code and like how they used to kill people. He's like, there's 3 ways to kill a Tlingit warrior. And it's like super hardcore. And when he spoke Tlingit, it was very high level Tlingit. So we're on the beach in this place called ʼatángi in ḵáaḵwt. Nice sunny day, and he walks up to me. He's very tall, and he says, ʼááxwt, ʼááxwt, which is, I'm going to challenge you. So I knew he was going to say something really difficult in Tlingit, because he knew I was learning Tlingit, and I was trying to learn as much as I could. I said, good day. He said something, I can't remember what he said, but I figured out what it was. He was happy. And we talked in Tlingit for a while. Then he visited with all of us for a while. And then he was just going to kind of wander off. And nobody said anything to him. So he gets on this four-wheeler and starts it up. And then I yelled at him, "ʼl'éiw Tu.éesh. And he puts on these like super shiny aviator sunglasses, and he looks at me and goes, "Chaguksa." He goes, he just takes off. It was like still one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So he like slowly puts on his sunglasses and says in Tlingit, "Wherever," and then just like takes off. So there's this stuff in action. So when someone uses one of these as a question, it's important to respond back with the same suffix. I'll use a teenager for an example. So like if a teenager comes home, if their curfew is 10 p.m., and the teenager comes home at midnight, and the guardians or the parents say, "Where have you been?" And if the teenager says, "I am going to bed," you're going to have a fight, right? So when they say the from one, you answer with the from one. For example, the first one comes from a traditional Tlingit welcoming ceremony. Like a welcoming ceremony in Tlingit is really interesting. This is how I was taught that it works for multiple people. Let's say there's a group of people coming, let's say you're in Angoon. There's a group of people that are paddling to your village from ʼí'igh. You all know they're coming, they all know they're coming, everybody knows why they're coming. Still, you would have, where Angoon is, there's like a bit of a hill going towards the harbor. They would be standing back at the top of the hill so that you couldn't kill them. They would have probably some pretty tough people on the beach, and then they would have someone who comes down and is there. He's the talker for the group. Your canoe, like, they would send another canoe out to meet your canoe and say, "This is what's going to happen when we go there. They're going to ask you this question," and the canoe would. Every canoe gets met with another canoe because they got to say like, "You here to fight? Okay, cool. If not, then let's go." So then, it's all like pre-scripted. Everybody knows they're coming. They all know they're coming. Everybody knows what they're coming for. Let's say they're coming to have a celebration before they paddle to celebration, which is what we did in Angoon. So then the canoe would come up and stop before it landed. You can't come up near, cannot touch the ground. And someone, the person who walked down, would yell very loudly, "Godach sawe yago." Where is your canoe from? Everybody already knows it. Hunadachaya hayagu, pichdachaya hayagu. Our canoe is from Huna, our canoe is from Cake. Then they would say, "Why have you come to our shores?" Wanachsaya ha'ani ayadeyakuchu. Hatuasagu wujin ayaku'i yautusahihi. We want to come together and have a ku'i. And then they would welcome them ashore. Yakechawi. And they would tell them to come ashore, but they wouldn't let them come ashore. What would they do? Anybody know? Any guesses?
Bet they would just like kill them or something.
No. was a lot nicer than that.
Carry the canoe?
They would walk out, they'd send these tough people out, grab the canoe, lift it up above their heads with everybody in it, walk them above the high tide line, and set it down to say, you don't have to get wet, you don't have to move your canoe, it'll be above the tide line, and it won't get damaged. It's like, it's a very nice thing, like when you see the whole thing take place. But, again, they say dach in the question, you say dach in the answer. Gutesa yani gut, gundakihitite yan chagut, gunachsa akwaku, wait yanach akwaku. Make sense? Any questions?
According to my my high school teacher Jasper Nelson, there would be like designated spots for canoes. Would there be like a designated spot for like the guest canoes and stuff like that versus?
Well, there was always a landing spot. That's what they would do. Like Anchkatsu. Like when they settled these places a long time ago, they took a lot of time and energy to clear all the rocks out. Like they would be big rocks and they would move them so you get sandy beach. So that's usually those designated spots. But then they would have places to put the canoes. And they would usually be pretty close to the beach. And it depended how long they were going to be there because they were dugouts. So you always had to take care of them. But if there was ḳu'iq, usually your guests are arriving a day or two before the ḳu'iq even happens. And then one thing that they would say is like, you guys are in that house, you guys are in that house, you guys are in that house. And they would arrange where everyone's going to be. Okay. So here's some other ones. Gutsa uwakukh. Necht uwakukh. So the T with the T. Kusu akisi. Yatu ikisi. Guksa yeyati iish. De shuk yeyati ish. Kochsa shkanal sechch. Yuch shkanal sechch. So it's just, all this is showing, whatever suffix is in the question, that suffix should also be in the answer. So we were talking about G, the possession. And you're going to see these ones all over the place. Tlingit just, the possession is very important in Tlingit. It just is. So we talked about from, so you get, everybody say, Jidach.
Dach.
Jidach.
Dach.
Jidch.
Jeet.
Jide.
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 Jinach.
Jinach.
Noch.
Jeet.
Jeet.
Jiwu.
Jiwa.
Jich.
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 So you'll
Quick
see.
question on this one.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I see the G at the top has a dash in front of it. So it's, you need an or a pronoun or something in front of it. These other ones don't.
Yes, like these ones just sit on their own. Yeah, he, we.
I mean on with the G.
Oh.
Just like Jidach need a
all of them.
Jidach.
All of them do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just saying like this applies all the way down. So yeah, you can't just say G day. Because it was just, yeah. I don't know what the equivalent would be. But you need to have the, so it needs to be do G day, G day, Ka G day. You could have a name, Khone G day. You could have a kinship term, Kla G day. People say you ʻatángi Kla G day. How would you translate that?
Uh,
Or towards language going towards
Towards
us?
the mother.
Or we are going towards the language?
We're getting the language.
It's a slang thing, I guess. That's from
Our mother tongue.
ʼukatunk ʼáaxwt.
Your mom joke of some kind.
Word to your mother.
Oh.
I guess it's an art. It's from the archives by this point. Okay. So now let's look at these things attaching to different relational bases. So these are very common ones. So some of the things you're going to see a lot is for it's, and you're going to see or which is saying that place that we were talking about. Tlingit does this all the time. So it'll be like ʻááxwt, ʻáyeewuti, ʻskagwt, it was there, right? At that place. Ka is the horizontal surface of or inside something that can spill. But you can also say it could be inside like the bottom of the boat, I guess. Ya is the face of or the vertical surface. Tu is inside. So these are the ones where you really have to watch what that tone and vowel length are doing when you attach suffixes to them. So here's how you might see them used in languages. Everybody say, ʻatángi tuk
ʻAtāyu tuk
ʻAtāyu tuk
ʻáyeeyati,
ʻáyeeyati,
ʻakatisewuqaq,
ʻakatisewuqaq,
ʻāqudzati,
ʻākudzati,
ʻiyat'auqtlaqen,
ʻiyeṭauqtliqen,
shtuk'anitahin.
anidahin.
This has both those bases in there and some suffixes. So again, dach, de, nach, ti, w, those are our suffixes. Here's three more, which I think we've talked about a little bit. So this CH usually marks who is doing the verb. So for example, if you say adusa, who? Aduchsa, who's doing the verb? That means there should be a subject in that verb. So if you want to say aduchsa yak'e, it doesn't make sense. Right? Aduchsa aushak'e, who improved it? That makes sense. Adusa yak'e, who is good? That also makes sense. This CH can also be used to mark what someone is doing it with. So I could say, kuhitach kaushachit. Oh, they'd be mad at me if I wrote with a key. That means I'm gonna like scratch it into this thing. Kuhidach, or katichach kaushachit. I might write it with a pencil. Yeah. Qa usually means going after. We'll see instances of like aqa'aweh, and that means and then. And then this N is with. Okay. But so here's a whole bunch with So with this little it's. So this combined, or it actually. So this combines with all of these suffixes to get you these combinations. Everybody say ach,
Ach.
aqa,
Aka.
adach,
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 Dach.
ach.
This
has three variations. We're going to say them all again. The first one, adach,
Dach.
adach,
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 ach,
ach,
A day.
A
A
day.
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 On.
On.
Anach.
Anach.
At.
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 Ut.
Awu.
Au.
Ahu.
Ach.
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 Ah.
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 Ach.
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 So we could see how each of these work, right? Any questions about any of them? After sometime tonight, maybe tomorrow, all of these will be on our class webpage. So I'll just put the whole slideshow up. For stuff like this, it's really just a bunch of information. I put them up right away. For other slideshows where we're like translating and stuff, like I'll either wait till we're done or I'll put them up in chunks, like so you can't look ahead for the answers. So here's another one. Sh.
Sh.
Sure.
So it's the end of it, but it's something, it's more than that too. Like there's a couple of these things where it's like, they're just ones you gotta keep thinking about. Because we'll go through all these examples, you see what they translate to, but then I'll talk about why a couple of them are different. Okay. Shudach.
Shudach.
Dach.
Shoot.
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 Shoote.
Shoot.
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 Shoo.
Shoot.
Shoo.
Shoo.
Shoot.
Shoot.
Shoo.
Shoot.
So here's why this one has funky meanings, I think. So if I say, ach, shoote, doesn't mean what you probably think it's going to mean. So if that means towards the end of it, what do you think ach, shoote means?
The end.
Me.
Like if you just follow the structure, you'd think towards my end?
Oh, my lineage, maybe.
My life,
My life.
death.
It's so strange. It means come and get me. I have no idea why. I have no idea why. And also why at the end is half of it. I don't know why that. So it's like, there's just a couple of these where like, whoa, that's one of those big, deeper wells type of things. But that's something, nas, shock, yeah, adeu dekin, yes, adeu dekin, nas, shock. Yikdewa o chakak, kin yikdewa au satin, or asdiki, has out zadik, shock, shock, has out zadik, has a ḳukahaa, yes, qonea ke uwa ich, ach shude, gwashiqa ke anqakuds. So that's one version. In another version, instead of shude, he says, achet aiwu, gwashiqa ke anqakuds. So that's, Raven went down to the head of the Nas River. He landed in this tree. There were people dip netting pieces of driftwood, and that's what they ate. I don't know why, but that's how the story goes. And Raven starts yelling at them. So in one version, he starts yelling at them, come and get me, come and get me. I might break the daylight on you. In the other version, he says, send me some food, send me some food. I might break the daylight on you. So this shoe day is just, it's just one to watch for.
So I notice you can't say shunach. You can't go through the end of it.
No, but you could say Shuna. That's the name of my cat. Because we named a cat in a story. An elder, she She's like, how about Shuna? I was like, what is that? She's like, it's just a good name. I was like, but I think that comes from Shunya, which would be the vicinity of the end of it. I don't know. It's too much. There's a few that like Dak and Dak, where they become these huge sort of conceptual things in Tlingit. Ka. This one is also all over the place. And we got to add one more. Just like that other one, there's... Yeah, and I guess I'm inconsistent here. For some of them, I have that the dash is before it. Okay. Dash, long dash before everything. Okay. Kadach.
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 Kach.
Kach.
Kade.
Kade.
Kanach.
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 Kat.
Kat.
Kawu.
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 Kuk.
Oh.
Kach. Kach.
Ka.
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 Kach.
Kach.
Kach. Kach.
So here's another ʼku'ik one. If you're killing the money, you say the person's name followed by kade, going over them. Okay, okay. The face of it. Yeah. Ya dach.
Yadach.
Yadach.
Yach.
Yach.
Yade.
Yade.
Yanach.
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 Yet.
Yet.
Yabu.
Yawu.
Yawu.
Yak.
Yak.
Ya.
Ya. Yach.
So this one you can say like if you're driving past, like we're going to the store, and you just keep on driving because maybe you're just talking and not paying attention. Hundake hiti yanach yanikuch. You're driving past the store. So it also means to go past something. Tuh. Uka.
Tuka.
Tudach.
Tudach.
Tudch.
Tudch.
Tude.
Tude.
Tunach.
Tunach.
Toot.
Toot.
Two.
Tuch.
Two.
Tuch.
Two.
Two.
Tuch.
Tuch.
Okay. Okay. So there's more, but I think we're hitting our limit. All right, so we'll stop here. Tuesday, we'll check out some more of these things. Let's see. Thursday of next week, we will have class, but I'll be teaching from Albuquerque. So you all know. There's a dual language conference there. There's a big group of us going, talking about how to create a dual language school in Tlingit. So we would spend, students would spend a portion of their day in Tlingit, fully immersed in Tlingit, and a portion of their day in English. Any thoughts or questions so far? Okay.
Do we have any like homework or reading for next week? That was such a teacher's pet question to ask.
Someone has asked if you can do some work over the weekend.
I'm like,
Here's what I think you should do. Pick it like, let's go back to ṭānk. And I'd like you to look at the full version of ṭānk and find 5 examples that use some of these directional location stuff that we've been looking for. So find five examples that use direction location. So you're looking for ach or adach or anything that you recognize that we've been studying from these lists of things. I'll put both slideshows up of this bases and location or bases and suffixes. The other slideshow that we did was Tlingit direction and location. So those slideshows will be there. There's also a whole chapter in ḥáaḥwt, ʻatángi, where all this stuff, there's big, huge lists of this stuff. And when I made those tables, I tried to find what I felt were the most common ones, and then some more unusual ones, and then some rare ones, I think is how I got them organized. That way you can sort of say, I got to learn these ones on the table 1, because you're going to see them all over the place. We're getting close to, I think the original title for ḥáaḥwt was Understanding the Tlingit Verb. But as I was writing it, because it developed out of intermediate Tlingit that was written by Nora Marks Dowenhauer and Richard Dowenhauer. And I started adjusting that, and at some point Richard Dowenhauer said, okay, just make it your own thing. It's changing a lot. And so I said, yeah, okay, I will. And it was what was developed to teach intermediate Tlingit. And then I should have called it Everything But the Verb. Then it was called Understanding the Tlingit Verb. I was like, I got to document everything else so we can get to the verb, and we're almost there. Because I think what's next is particles and common phrases. Then we move kind of into using the resources and starting to understand the verb. But Seth Cable, who studies a lot of Tlingit and is a wonderful linguist in Massachusetts, reviewed the text and said, okay, you should really call it something different because understanding the Tlingit verb, this is doing a lot more than that. And then I was sitting next to Selena Everson when she said, ḥáaḥwt, ʻatángi. And I was like, that's the title of the book, right? And so all of these things are in there, but I think there's a couple of things that we should do now to help internalize it. One is going back into this story we've been studying and studying and studying, finding 5 examples. And then I would like you to try to write 5 sentences that use 5 of these different things. And we'll start off by sharing your guys's. I want to hear the sentences you write first. Then we'll talk about the sentences you found. And then we'll get back into it.
I'll write an apology for next class.
No, that's so great, because I think you have to do stuff it helps to solidify it, because it moves it from these abstract tables into full language use. Because it's been feedback I've gotten over the years is I talk too much and don't give people enough. So how we're solving. Any other thoughts or questions? Anybody else want to give us a task? I'm just kidding. Okay.
Is the original intermediate Tlingit book that Dick wrote still available?
Yeah. Let's see. I bet I could find it. And when you look at it, you'll find you can see how ḥáaḥwt was born, like as a book. So I think it's under intermediate materials under resources. Maybe right there. I tried to grab every single thing that has any Tlingit on it. But I tell you what, some people, they don't share their stuff with me now. So I don't get it, but Chawasa. let's see, a quick preview. Let's see, let me go back into, there we go. Maybe. Oh, here it is. So the next story, it has a different name in here. Not that one. Okay. So you're going to see the old version of this, which is kind of cool, because not very many people are going to see this version. It's called ʼátángí, which is now called L'éiw Tu.éesh, because that's the more common name for this story. For a lot of Tlingit stories, it's interesting because, like, I think we're talking earlier on the break about the woman who married a bear. The name of that story in Tlingit is ʼátángí ḵáaḵwt. The woman who said something to offend the bears. So it has a more complicated title in Tlingit. And so in English, this story is usually called How the Salmon Got to Be in the Water, in the rivers. But it's commonly known in the Tlingit language as L'éiw Tu.éesh, which is usually translated as Raven in the Salmon House. And so we will take a look at this. These illustrations will change. These are wonderful illustrations by an artist named Michael Dixon, who deserves an awful lot of credit for every one of these 8 stories. Because it was kind of a big project that I think was losing a bit of momentum. Goldblatt Heritage Foundation brought me onto the project in 2014 to say, could you look at this curriculum for preschoolers and add Tlingit language to it? So I started going through, I was like, oh, there's a salmon chapter. Let's do the names of salmon. Let's talk about where salmon are born and life cycle stuff. But then it kept referencing these books, and I couldn't find them. And so someone was leaving the state, cleaned out their office, and said, oh, I found this email address on a sticky note, which I think is the illustrator. So I wrote him, and he sent me all 9 books. And so these are his illustrations, and when we look at it, this can be a lot longer than the 30-sentence version that's going to be in the published book. So we're going to have some fun with this one. And I guess I'll read the first page, and then we'll close out for the week. Ch'ak aya ch'ak, ch'eshlingitani dat at tusakuji, yashlingitani kutzati, ushaqaya huti, at kaye wuti, kaas akawu, at kaye wuti, kaas akawu, aka yaguts kutzati. Shlikat yashlingitani kaye yati hin aya ya 18 kaye wuti. Yashlingitani ka teshkuwasti ya kayachat hini kakanadayi hin tenk. So I'll give you folks a couple of hints. This is long time ago. After the flood that Raven experienced, which is different than the flood that the Tlingit experienced. And then, yeah, maybe we'll just leave it at that. Okay. Ḥukahaa dudzinei L'éiw Tu.éesh ya iti sandechak. Kejin wuch itchiuch atank kakki shahid. Kejin wuch itchiuch akitank yuchatank kakki shi. You're going to write 5 sentences, find 5 sentences. We'll go over those on Tuesday. L'éiw Tu.éesh.
Ďakujem.
Yagan.
ʻáʻwt.
Yay, ʻáʻwt.
L'éiw Tu.éesh.
ʻáʻwt.
Aye, owa. Aye, owa.